founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Saturday, November 7th, 2020, and we are here with a breaking news story. You saw my Facebook post about this. The call came in. The call was made 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when the another batch of votes came in from Pennsylvania, and the majority of them went for Joe Biden. MSNBC called the Pennsylvania race for Joe Biden. He got the 20 electoral college votes associated with Pennsylvania to put him at 273 electoral college votes and make him president-elect and make him he'll be the 46th president. Donald Trump is not taking this very well, but who cares? This ain't about you. This is not up to you. Some people say, oh, he's not going to concede. U.S. Constitution does not require for an incumbent to concede or a challenger to concede. January 20th, 2021, the 46th president will be Joe Biden. So we're going to give a breakdown of what happened. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. I knew it was coming. If you saw my show yesterday, my Friday night show, and we're on 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. I figured Pennsylvania would be called for Joe Biden today. Joe Biden's going to end up most likely at 306 electoral college votes. He's going to win Arizona. Associated Press called Arizona Wednesday morning, November 4th at 2:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so let's give a breakdown of what happened. And I did a Facebook post here that people are responding to. We're going to read some of your responses. It says breaking news: MSNBC just called the race for Joe Biden. It's already got over 400 likes. We'll read some of your comments. It's very, very important what I said. This is not over. There are two crucial Senate races in Georgia, January 5th, 2021. The balance of the Senate weighs on those two Senate races. Either Moscow Mitch McConnell can be Senate Majority Leader and Republicans can be in control of the Senate, or if Democrats win both of those two races, Democrats will be in control of the Senate. Mitch McConnell will not be in control of the Senate. And if there's a 50-50 tie in the Senate on a vote, the tie-breaking vote goes to the MVP, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This is serious. So let's get into this. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. This is a special broadcast. I did not plan to go live today, but we see what happens. Also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, and it's also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Okay, so let's do just a quick recap of what happened, and then I'm going to go to this very important Facebook post. I'm going to go to this very important Facebook post that I did also, okay? Because a lot of people don't understand this. Let's see here. Let's see if I can pin this. All right. Okay, so I posted, okay, let's look at updates from Washington Post. Former Vice President Joe Biden is projected to win Pennsylvania and his 20 electoral college votes, according to Edison Research, putting him over 270. So he's at 273 right now. The call came about 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday morning, November 7th. And more votes are coming in from Pennsylvania as well. With the victory, Senator Kamala Harris, a Democrat of California, is set to become the highest ranking woman in the nation's 244-year existence. We still have races to be called in Georgia. Joe Biden's going to win Georgia. There's going to be a recount because the race is within 1 percentage point. Okay, Joe Biden is going to win Georgia, 16 electoral college votes. He's going to win Arizona, 11 electoral college votes. He's going to win Nevada. Most likely he'll win Nevada as well. All right. So let's see here. Donald Trump is not taking this well. Washington Post is reporting they had Trump insists election is far from over, vows to press forward with court fights. He has no legal argument. If you saw my show Friday night, These court cases are being thrown out. There is no legal argument. Trump insisted Saturday that the election is far from over shortly after multiple outlets projected Joe Biden the winner of the presidency. He said, quote, "We all know why Joe Biden is rushing to falsely pose as the winner and why the media allies are trying so hard to help him. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The truth is your ass lost. That's the truth. The truth is your ass lost and you can't handle defeat well. Okay. But I got news for you. You should be making arrangements for a moving van because you're moving come January 20th, 2020. You're moving out of the White House. All right. Let's look at the I want to look at the post that I did. And let's see, let's pin this here also. I want to look at the post I did here on Facebook. How's everybody doing? Okay, and let's see if we can pin this. All right, good. So I talked about this breaking news story, but more importantly, I talked about the fact that the real fight begins on the other side of the election. The real fight begins on the other side of the election. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, let's look at this here, and we'll go to some of your comments also. All right, and then I'm going to show you some of the things that are in Joe Biden's 22-page agenda to empower Black America. Those are things that we hold them accountable for. Senator Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, those are policies that we have to get pushed through Congress. The fight is not over. It's just one chapter is over. So I said, breaking news, MSNBC has just called the race for Joe Biden, awarding the 20 electoral college votes, 20 electoral college votes from Pennsylvania to Joe Biden. I'm getting news updates from all the news outlets also. He will probably end up at 306 electoral college votes, as I said last night on my radio show. Now we have 2 runoff elections in Georgia on January 5th, 2021 for 2 Senate seats. Now, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, November 6th. I'm a panelist each Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we talked about this. This is critical, okay? You have Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat, African-American. He's in a runoff election against Senator Kelly Loeffler, Republican. Now, Senator Kelly Loeffler, she's been in the media a lot recently because she is part owner of a WNBA team, and she's against the Black Lives Matter movement. All right. She was appointed to this Senate seat. She was appointed by the governor. Now, the 2 emerged at the top as the top vote getters in a crowded primary in which Representative Douglas A. Collins, a Republican of Georgia, also sought the seat. Pastor Warnock has 33% of the vote, and Kelly Loeffler 26% of the vote. So based upon Georgia state law, if you have an election and neither candidate gets at least 50% of the vote, then the 2 highest vote getters go to a runoff election. That runoff election is taking place January 5th, 2020, 15 days before Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris are sworn in. January 5th, 2021. This is critical. The balance of the U.S. Senate rests on these 2 U.S. Senate races, these special races. The second one is going to be between Republican Senator David Perdue and Democratic Challenger John Ossoff. Okay. And they'll head to a runoff election on January 5th as well. So the fight is going to be in Georgia. I was listening to Charlie Daniels a couple nights ago. The devil went down to Georgia, but the fight is going to be down to Georgia. There's a joke in there about Donald Trump, and I call him Lucifer in the flesh and things like that, but we're not going to go there right now. But the fight is the real fight is coming to Georgia once again. Okay, because you don't want Mitch McConnell in control of the Senate, because a lot of the bills that they want to get passed through the Senate and bills that we need to get passed through the Senate, he'll block them just like he's blocking them now. Okay, there may be a few, since you got 2 old white men talking, Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell, they've known each other for decades. The few you may be able to get through, but you can get more through if Democrats control the Senate. Okay, so let's go back to what I posted here. How's everybody doing? All right, so we have two runoff elections in Georgia on January 5th, 2021 for 2 U.S. Senate seats. This is for control over the U.S. Senate. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris gets the tie-breaking vote if there's a 50-50 tie in the Senate. Okay, this is one of the reasons why it's so important to vote for president. You have a lot of people talking about saying it doesn't matter who you vote for president. They don't study politics. It does matter. Okay, they don't tell you in the 50-50 tie in the Senate, the tie-breaking vote goes to the vice president. Now, the real fight, I go on to say, the real fight begins to hold candidates accountable for campaign promises. We can't go to sleep. We can't stay at the inauguration for 4 years. We can't just be mesmerized because we have a brilliant black vice president. You have to hold them accountable, and not just them, the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. 70 to 80% of what a president wants to do has to go through Congress, has to go through the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. So these next 4 years have to be a third reconstruction. We can't play with this. These next 4 years are going to be 4 of the most critical years in the history of this country. This has to be a third reconstruction. All these policies we've been talking about, the Jobs and Justice Act of 2020, which includes the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Okay, the Congressional Black Caucus put that in there because they tried to get it passed in the Senate and didn't get passed. All these bills, raising the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, which will lift 40 million people out of poverty. That bill passed the House of Representatives in July 2019. It's being blocked in the Senate. Okay, HR 40. HR 40 is talked about on page 22 of Biden's plan to empower Black America. Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about reparations. He's attacking the 1619 Project, doesn't want to talk about slavery. Okay, any of this. All this has to be pushed these next 4 years. Okay, and is no guarantee in the 2022 midterm election that Democrats will maintain control of the House of Representatives. Hopefully they will, but there's no guarantee. So these first 2 years are a critical 2 years. Okay, so the real fight begins with holding candidates accountable for campaign promises. We have to make these next 4 years a third reconstruction and get as many bills passed that are beneficial to African Americans as we can. We can start by reversing the 192 executive orders that Donald Trump has signed since he's been in office, because you don't need Congress for that. We can start right there. Trump has signed 192 executive orders. Okay. And we look at the policies of his Department of Justice that have reversed the criminal justice reforms that were put in place by the Obama administration, such as in March, I think it was, of 2017, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, Donald Trump's first attorney general, reversed Eric Holder's, Attorney General Eric Holder's a policy called Smart on Crime in 2013, which backed off of charging low-level nonviolent drug offenders with the longest, harshest sentences. Jeff Sessions refers that. Why? Because Jeff Sessions was against criminal justice reform. So is Attorney General William Barr, who doesn't even want to acknowledge that systemic racism exists in policing. So when I hear people talking about Donald Trump's a champion of criminal justice reform, I'm like, why did he nominate 2 attorney generals who are against criminal justice reform? But when you don't study politics, you fall for this simple Simon ass nonsense. You fall for these talking points. Run that on somebody else that don't read, that don't study this 24/7. Now, I say we can start by reversing 192 executive orders that Trump has signed. You don't need Congress for that. Okay. So let's look at a few things. How's everybody doing? This is why you need to subscribe to the African History Network show. A lot of this simple Simon ass bullshit people are talking about, they don't study politics. Okay. I do. All right. The African History Network, the African History Network on Facebook, Michael Imhotep on YouTube. Turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. All right. So let's look at some quick updates here. We're just going to be here for a few more minutes, and I'm on 6 days a week, so I have to do my show Sunday night. And I just got off the air. We did. I got off the air at 1 a.m. this morning, because we did about, well, I think about 12:30 this morning. I got off the air. So let's look at this. All right. So Trump insists election is far from over. It's over, player. It's over. It's over. You got to know when to fold them, know when to hold them. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Because the indictments are coming for you January 21st, 2021. The indictments are coming. America has elected first female vice president. I'm looking at some of these updates from Washington Post. Pennsylvania projected to put Biden over the top. Okay, we got that. Let's see. Associated Press projects that Biden will win the presidency. Okay, I'm just looking through any important updates. Okay, then I want to get to something else very quickly. Then we'll get out of here. I'll be on Sunday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show right here on Facebook and YouTube, and on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. Trump goes golfing as Twitter flags more of his tweets. He's lying on Twitter. We know that. And they're flagging his tweets. I think they're going to take down his account or something. When he leaves office and he start popping off on Twitter, acting crazy, they're going to delete some of those tweets. They're going to shut them down. Facebook's latest attempt to slow disinformation means probation for some groups. Okay, Facebook has started putting some groups on a type of probation. Its latest move to slow the spread of disinformation and attempts to undermine the legitimacy of the U.S. election. Any group, public or private, that the company detects has too many posts that violate its company standards will be forced to have administrators and moderators approve each submission manually. The requirement will stay in place for 60 days for the group, with no way to appeal or override it. No way to appeal or override it. The GOP lawsuits seeking court intervention and vote counting are met with skepticism. These are frivolous lawsuits. They're not going anywhere. Okay. There will be a recount in Georgia. Somebody posted on my personal page saying, oh, it's not over. Donald Trump's not going to concede. The U.S. Constitution does not require a sitting president or a challenger to concede. That don't have nothing to do with this. 12 noon, January 20th, 2021, there'll be a new president. If Donald Trump refuses to leave the White House, the Secret Service will escort all trespassers from the White House. Okay, so it ain't no trying to figure out what the hell to do. No, that's not gonna happen. Okay, he can act a fool if he wants to. Go right ahead. They will escort you behind right out the White House. So there will be a recount in Georgia. Let him go ahead and recount. He's not gonna change anything. He will still lose. Trump will still lose Georgia. Okay, I want to do a quick refresh here and see if there are any important updates that I'm missing, because this is a breaking news story and we see these updates coming in, and I'm getting notifications from news outlets. Okay, who is this reporting here? They're talking about Senator Kamala Harris. Los Angeles Times. Kamala Harris makes history over many times over as vice president-elect. Okay, got that. Let's see here. Let's refresh. Then we're going to look very quickly at some things. Now, on my show, back May through June of 2020 on our Sunday night show, we dealt with Joe Biden's plan to power Black America. It's 22 pages. Not the 2 pages Donald Trump had, his platinum plan that I call the Fool's Gold plan, because that's what it is. It's a Fool's Gold plan. Biden's plan is broken into 6 parts. We took one Sunday each week and broke it down. Okay. Then we just did it again, ending a couple weeks ago. We spent 6 shows breaking it down once again. Some people don't know it exists. I don't know where you're getting your information from. You can go to joebiden.com and read it. Actually, I'll post a clip here, right here. This is what we hold them accountable to. People saying, oh, what do Black people get? Well, you don't watch this show. If you watch this show, you would know. Okay. So we're going to post it here. Everybody read this. Now, this is a floor, not a ceiling. This is a floor, not a ceiling. This ain't all we're going to push for. This has to be a third Reconstruction in this next 4 years. What do I mean by that? First Reconstruction was 1865 to 1877. You had the 13th Amendment. 14th Amendment gives citizenship to African Americans. 15th Amendment gives voting rights. You have the Civil Rights Act of 1866. You have rights being given to African Americans. We're buying property. Where you have the Union troops in the South protecting the rights of African Americans to a certain extent. And also, it's interesting that this all is taking place today, because today is the anniversary of November 7th, 1876, when you had the compromise of 1877, or what led to the compromise of 1877. And this was the Union troops being removed. This was Rutherford B. Hayes, the Republican, becoming president in agreement with the Democrats to remove the Union troops out of the South. And the Union troops were protecting the rights of African Americans to a certain extent. And we go back and we look at the four Force Acts, FORCE, the Force Acts in the 1870s, and the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, which was used to really break up and control and suppress the Klan. And in October of 1871, President Ulysses S. Grant uses the Force Act, uses the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 to declare martial law in South Carolina and crack down on the Ku Klux Klan. We talked about that on my show last week. Okay, so this is, I'm going to pull up this. I was looking at this earlier here, and this is from history.com, official website of the History Channel, because I get the emails from them every day. November 7th, 1876, a little before midnight on election night, the Republican candidate Rutherford B. Hayes admits defeat and goes to bed. How did secret backroom negotiations eventually hand him the presidency? This is, so election day, November 7th, 1876, the Republican candidate Rutherford B. Hayes does not have enough electoral college votes to become president. Neither does Democratic challenger. This leads to the compromise of 1877, which then removes the Union troops out of the South and ends Reconstruction. The first Reconstruction. Second Reconstruction is basically during the Civil Rights Movement. You had the Civil Rights Act of 64, Voting Rights Act of 65, affirmative action, September 1965, Executive Order 11246, signed into law by President Johnson. You have Fair Housing Act 1968. You're going to have these gains that are going to be made on various levels. Not everything that we wanted, but you're going to have this taking place, this second Reconstruction. This has to be a third Reconstruction, but go even farther beyond that. The other thing that's important to understand, and I teach about this when I deal with 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. We don't understand how to protect our gains that were made. See, we don't understand the concept of protecting gains. This is why you have to, when you have an election that takes place, you have to assess what was accomplished the previous terms, what was the previous 2 years, 4 years, what have you. Understand what's at risk of being reversed. And you have to vote to protect those gains that were made also, because there's always people trying to take away what you have. It's always people trying to take you back. So many times we'll vote transactionally, or we will vote and don't understand a continuum. Okay, we will vote and don't see the connection between this election here and the previous 2 or 3, and not understanding how to see. A lot of people say, well, with an election, it's about what they can do for Black people. Okay, that's only part of it. It's not only about what someone can do for you. It's also understanding how to block and stop what people are trying to do to you. It's also about understanding how to block and stop what people are trying to do to you. This is why I say, people say, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for anybody that doesn't have a Black agenda. Well, first thing you need to do is identify the person who has an anti-Black agenda. Because the candidate with an anti-Black agenda is even worse than the one that don't have a Black agenda, because they may have policies that are beneficial for you, but they just help everybody. It's not specifically for African Americans, or they don't just focus on African Americans, but they may have policies that benefit everybody. They help you, but they ain't trying to purposely hurt you. The one with an anti-Black agenda has to be stopped at all costs. This is why I say it's not just about what people can do for you. It's also understanding how to block and stop what people are trying to do to you, because there's always people trying to take you back and take away what you have. All right. So, okay, let's continue with this. Police reform has to rank up there. Police reform is huge. That's part of the Jobs and Justice Act of 2020. We talked about that here on this show from the Congressional Black Caucus. Okay, because the George Floyd Police and Justice Act, they could not get that passed in the Senate. Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker fought to try to get that passed in the Senate. They didn't have the votes. Republicans control the Senate. Republicans were pushing the weak bill sponsored by Senator Tim Scott, which did not go nearly as far as the one the Democrats had. Okay, so what they did was, and I'm going to show you this chart. I'm going to show you this chart here, and we talked about this. There was an article from news1.com that dealt with this. The Jobs and Justice Act 2020 is huge. It deals with police reform. It deals with aid for small businesses, especially African-American-owned small businesses. Is huge. We got to get that bill passed. All right. So let's continue. And we got a bunch of trolls on here. Okay, y'all should go onto a Donald Trump thread if you want to be a troll, because you're gonna get blocked here. You know, go to a Donald Trump thread and raise money, raise some bail money for Trump, because he's gonna need it. All right. All right, everybody, share this broadcast on your social media platforms and invite your friends to tune in. Okay. All right, so let's look at this quickly here. We'll post this link. I talked about this when it came out. This article came out May 5th, 2020, Joe Biden's plan for empowering Black America. This is from Black Press USA, deals with his 22-page agenda to empower Black America. Read this article here. This plan came out May 4th, 2020. This came out before Ice Cube's contract with Black America even came into existence. And I've talked about Ice Cube. I said, I think he meant well. I think he had a good heart. I talked to Dr. Claude Anderson, who's one of my teachers, for an hour Saturday, October 17th, because I was on Roland Martin's show Friday, October 16th. Roland interviewed Ice Cube Thursday, October 15th. We talked about it the next day on Roland's show, and I talked about it. Dr. Claude Anderson, we argued for an hour, because when we talk, we argue like an old married couple. Seriously. We argue, you'll cuss me out, what have you. But I've interviewed him a number of times as well. But Ice Cube will now be able to meet with the Biden administration, because according to his interview, he said when he met, there was a Zoom call between Ice Cube's team and Representative Cedric Richmond, who was Joe Biden's co-chair, Simone Sanders, senior advisor to Joe Biden to the campaign, and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. The Politico.com has an extensive account of all this stuff that happened on the Trump side and the Biden side. Now, we talked about that article before from Politico. September 8th, 2020, there was a Zoom call between Ice Cube's camp and I think, and I remember correctly, I think he was on that call, and the Biden campaign. Okay. And as he told Roland, he said they said they like 85% of what was in the plan. Now, a lot of that stuff was already in Biden's plan, because Biden's plan came out May 4th, 2020. This is what a lot of people don't know. But he said, we'll talk after election. We'll now Representative Cedric Richmond came out and said that's not how it happened. We told him we like what's in the plan. You need to flesh some of this stuff out. Okay. But nonetheless, he can now meet with them. All right. So ain't nothing to argue about. As far as I'm concerned, ain't nothing to argue about. All right. But people should not put Ice Cube in the same class as Lil Wayne. Ice Cube didn't endorse anybody. Lil Wayne did. Okay. And if you follow somebody named Lil, there's something wrong with you in the first place. But anyway, let me show you this. In the article, the inside story of how Ice Cube joined forces with Donald Trump. Now, the title was a little inaccurate, but it gives a detailed account of what happened. October 15th, 2020 from Politico.com. And just to make sure, I want to make sure I get this correct. September 8th, Ice Cube and his team had a conversation on Zoom with Biden's campaign, which was represented by Louisiana Representative Cedric Richmond, who's Biden's co-chair, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, and senior advisor Simone Sanders. That's on page 6 of the article. Okay. And then also it came out after Cedric Richmond refuted some of the things that were being said. It also came out that Ice Cube turned down a Zoom call with Senator Kamala Harris and some other celebrities because he said he did not think it would be productive. But that's all water under the bridge. They won. He can go meet with them. More power to him. And I seriously mean that. I don't mean any harm to him. It takes a lot for him to pull together experts and put time and effort into putting together an agenda, because it's not easy. Okay. And really it's a thankless job. So I think he meant well. I think he's still learning and evolving. Okay. All right. So, okay. And then we got trolls. I don't know why trolls are on here. I guess you have nothing better to do. You ran out of mayonnaise sandwiches to eat and you're tired of listening to John Cougar Mellencamp records. Is that what it is? Okay. So, all right. All right. Okay, so let's look at this. We're going to turn on the screen share. I want you to be able to see this. Okay, go to Google Chrome right here. So we deal with holding people accountable. This is not about not liking people. I'm not into calling people names except Donald Trump. I'll call him names. I want to give you just a little background information. This was written May 5th, 2020. I spent 6 weeks on my Sunday night show going through breaking this down. So you get to understand policy. All right. So briefly, they said the Biden plan will advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps, expand access to high quality education, and tackle racial inequity in our education system. Make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities for race. 4, strengthen America's commitment to justice. 5, make the right to vote and the right to equal protection for real for African Americans. 6, address environmental justice. These are the 6 sections. These are the 6 parts of the 22-page agenda, which has been expanded also, because I've been on the website recently and it has been expanded. I want to focus in on this part here. Where is it? Okay, first thing they do in the agenda, and I'm going to show it to you, is talk about the impact coronavirus has had on African Americans. Let's see here. Who is it? There's a part I'm looking for. They talk about putting it together, putting the agenda together. Damn. Hold on. Okay. Biden said the plan reflects many months of work and feedback from local elected officials, activists, organizations, practitioners, policy experts, strategists, and young people. Okay. So this is part of, so you can check this out in its entirety. We posted the link here to this article, and I want to blow this up. I want to make sure everybody sees it. All right. So if we go over and look through this briefly, and you can read it yourself, because I don't have time to go through all of it, because I've done it twice already, 2.5 times already. But there's just a few key things we're going to look at here. Okay. So let's go back to this. And then we're going to look at we're going to look quickly at the Jobs and Justice Act 2020. That has to pass. That has to pass. That will be greatly beneficial. Okay, so first it talks about the devastating impact coronavirus has had on African Americans. We already gave you this link. We'll post it again. Then it breaks down the 6 parts of the agenda. Okay, then part 1, it deals with pages 2 through 11 deal with economic empowerment for African Americans. Pages 2 through 11 deal with economic empowerment for African Americans, and also printed it out as well. So if you watch my show, you know we've gone through this. Okay, So I also printed it out as well. So you can print it out. I printed it in black and white to save ink. Okay, to save color ink. But you can print it out also from his website. And these are things we push for also. Now, other agendas are cool. I'm not saying this is the only agenda. Don't get me wrong. Other agendas are cool. These are things we push for at the local, state, and federal level, not just at the federal level. So some of this stuff also applies locally as well. Okay. All right. Advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps. Okay. We'll just look at highlights. Invest in African American businesses and entrepreneurs, in ensuring equal access to credit and capital, African-American businesses often lack the capital they need to succeed. African-American businesses are rejected at a rate nearly 20% higher than the white-owned firms. Even worse, African-American businesses that do get funding receive only 40% of the funds requested as compared to 70% for white businesses. To increase investment and access to capital, Biden will, we're just going to look at the highlights. You can read this for yourself. Double funding for the state small business credit initiative. Expand the new markets tax credit, make the program permanent, and double community development financial institutions, the CDFI funding. Okay. 3, improve and expand the small business administration programs that most effectively support African-American owned businesses. And then they go and break this down. Also, click on these links. Okay, this gives you more information. One of the things this agenda does, okay, and see, I've actually been involved in writing public policy for the city of Detroit, Executive Order 22 under the Kwame Kilpatrick administration. I didn't work for the city. I was managing a general contracting company and managing a construction trades program through a local community college. And because, I know how to maneuver, I was able to get us on the committee to rewrite Executive Order 22, which dealt with making sure at least 50% of the people employed on city-funded construction projects were Detroiters, okay? Making sure at least 50% of the people employed on city-funded construction projects were Detroiters, okay? Now, that excluded road construction because road construction was not funded by the city of Detroit. All right. Now, based upon the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and as the corporate counsel for the city of Detroit, and and she also headed up the committee, as she explained to us, it's illegal for us to write the law and say 50% of the people had to be black or 50% had to be African Americans that are higher, but you can say 50% Detroiters. So you have to, we had to understand how to navigate around existing law. Okay. All right. Let's continue here. So when I look at a lot of this stuff here, I have a better understanding because I've actually been involved in writing public policy. Now, I ain't worked in the Kwame Kilpatrick administration. I ain't go to jail, nothing like that. So there's something else. Okay. I just want people to understand that. All right. And I'm still waiting to see if they let Kwame out, because that was the rumor the day before the election. Kwame is going to be let out. So I'm trying to see. I haven't gotten any updates. So, all right. So, but when you go through and click on these links, you get a better understanding of how policies impacts conditions. Politics is the legal distribution. You've heard me say this before. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Voting is only one aspect of politics. Let me repeat. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement, because Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution clearly tells you that the U.S. Constitution, all of the previous treaties, and all of the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. This is why you got to read the U.S. Constitution. If you're talking about politics and ain't read the Constitution, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is part of the problem. A lot of these people putting out videos don't understand none of this stuff. They're just dealing with social media talking points. Okay. You got this. So this book right here is one you can start with. You can go to loc.gov, which is the Library of Congress website, read the U.S. Constitution there, loc.gov. You can go to archives.gov, National Archives, read the U.S. Constitution there. This book here, this is about $2, The Declaration of Independence and Other Great Documents of American History. Okay, now they may have to define great, because when I look up great in the dictionary, I see 13 different definitions, only 11, and only 2 have anything to do with being good. So, you know, that great may not be the right term to use, but anyway, 1775 to 1865. This is from Dover Books. So this is like $2, and the U.S. Constitution is in here. Okay, so this may be something that you start with. All right, now, and then when we do a racism, somebody posted about racism, understanding what racism is. Politics impacts every aspect of our life, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat. People in 2016 were saying, we don't need to vote. We just need to do economic empowerment, invest in the stock market. I said, that's good, because my degree's in business administration. I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. I understand this better than most people, because I managed companies that were African-American owned, and we had contracts with the city of Detroit and the county of Wayne and the state of Michigan, and we were employing African-Americans so they can feed their families and pay their mortgages, things like this. So I'm pretty adroit and daft at this. Okay, but I said, that's good. You can do all that, but you also need to elect a president whose economic policies are going to protect the economy that your Black-owned business operates within and depends upon. Because see, most of our businesses operate upon the premise that people have money to spend with us so we can stay in business. Otherwise, we're going to have to get a job on an assembly line or in a cubicle next to them. You're going to have a grand opening and grand closing. So when you allow a president, when you allow somebody to become president who has no understanding of the economy, who thinks the economy is the stock market, and it's not, okay, who mishandled the coronavirus, which tanked the economy and ended 113 consecutive months of private sector job growth that started under President Barack Obama. When you have somebody that doesn't understand that, guess what? 40%, 41% of Black-owned businesses have gone out of business as of April this year. We saw reported by the New York Federal Reserve. Washington Post has an article dealing with this, okay, dealing with how small Black businesses have been devastated by the coronavirus economy. It's probably 50% of Black-owned businesses that have gone out of business as of now because of coronavirus and the economy, okay? You still got 25 million people who are collecting unemployment. All right. So, and then we just saw, and I talked about this on my show. We see the article from October 16th from NBC News. 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. This is as of May. Since May 2020, 8 million Americans have slipped into poverty because of the coronavirus pandemic. And because July 31st, the extra $600 in federal unemployment insurance ran out. Researchers looked at the devastating financial effect the pandemic has had on Americans, with Blacks, Latinos, and children faring the worst. I got a ton of information like this dealing with the devastating impact that coronavirus has had on African Americans, Hispanics, poor people. Now, what a lot of people are not talking about is on the other side of this pandemic, there's going to be a massive number of foreclosures and evictions. And guess who's going to bear the brunt of that? Yeah. That is going to be us. Okay. This is why elections have consequences. All right. So let's look at this. We've got Sherry. We've got some trolls. I've got trolls in different area codes. They have nothing better to do. Don't understand politics. Okay. But anyway. All right, let's continue. So let's go back to this. All right. Increase opportunities for African-American owned businesses to participate in federal contracts. Increase opportunities for African-American owned businesses to obtain or participate in federal contracts. In the aftermath of the 2008-2009 financial crisis, well over $100 billion of federal prime contracting dollars were awarded to minority-owned small businesses. And between 2013 and 2016, the Obama-Biden administration increased federal prime contract dollars going to small disadvantaged businesses by nearly 30%, from $30.6 billion to $39.1 billion. The Obama-Biden administration also created the Interagency Task Force on federal contracting opportunities for small businesses, which included a focus on contracting opportunities for minority-owned businesses. Okay, read the rest of this. We got to focus on government contracts, but your paperwork has to be correct to be able to become an authorized vendor of the federal government. It's just like when we were pursuing a contract to do training, educational training for the state of Michigan. So I had to take us through the process to become an authorized vendor of the state of Michigan so that we can actually get the contract that we already had lined up. Okay. But a lot of African-American owned businesses, their paperwork is not correct. So they can't even become an authorized vendor of the federal government to be able to bid on federal contracts. So this is something that we have to focus on. All right, let's continue. Increased funding for the Minority Business Development Agency, the MBDA, which was started under the Richard Nixon administration. And each year, Donald Trump keeps trying to cut the funding in his annual federal budget to the MBDA. Okay, the Trump administration has pushed for a 75% cut in MBDA budget. Biden will protect and call for increased funding for it. The annual federal budget is about $5 trillion. The annual federal budget is about $5 trillion. You're dealing with a reallocation of taxpayer dollars. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So you're dealing with the reallocation of about $5 trillion, the annual federal budget. And then when we look at the U.S. Census, the U.S. Census is a reallocation of $1.5 trillion. Taxpayer dollars also. That's something separate. That's a whole nother conversation. But the census was created by the U.S. Constitution. First census is taken in 1790. Okay. And the census, the results of the census are tied to the Electoral College. Why? Because the census is tied to representation in the House of Representatives. States that have an increase in population how many seats in the U.S. House of Representatives a state has is based upon population. So California has the most number of seats. They have 64. Michigan has 14. Georgia has 14. Pennsylvania has 18. It's based upon population. Where does the population count come from? The U.S. Census. All right. How does this impact the Electoral College? Well, you take the number of members of the U.S. House of Representatives. You add to that the number of members in the U.S. Senate. Every state has 2 based upon the Constitution. That tells you how many votes in the Electoral College a particular state has. Michigan has 16. Georgia has 16. Pennsylvania has 20. Texas has 38. California has 66. New Hampshire has 4. Maine has 3, if I remember correctly. That's based upon the population count coming from the U.S. Census. Well, what happens when you put an immigration question on the U.S. Census, and there hasn't been an immigration question on the census in about the last 50 or 60 years? Okay, why did Trump try to want to put an immigration question on the U.S. Census? The U.S. Census does not ask people's immigration status. It doesn't ask whether you're here legally or illegally. Okay, and the whole concept about illegals being here is a real tricky conversation. Because the first thing I'm going to do is talk about white people who are here illegally. And we'll talk about the Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1848 that ended with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And this was part of this whole manifest destiny. And Europeans want to take over the entire North American continent. And the U.S. got California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada as a result of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. All that belonged to Mexico. The whole fight over Texas, which belonged to Mexico, that whole fight, this over this expansion of Europeans to take over the entire North American continent. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803, and the U.S. gets 828,000 square miles of land for less than 3 cents an acre, and they buy from France. And the majority of the land that France sold, they ain't even own it. It belonged to Native Americans and Africans who were here. So we can have a conversation about illegals, but it ain't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. I mean, this white guy called up my show talking about illegals voting. I said, you talking about white illegal immigrants? We can have this conversation. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. So, check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's all I have to say. All right, let's continue here. Let's go back to this. Okay, protect small disadvantaged businesses from federal and state contract bundling, which often locks out African-American owned smaller firms from effectively bidding on procurement contracts. Now, this was a reversal from the Obama administration. What the Obama administration did was broke up larger contracts into smaller contracts to make it easier for African-American owned businesses to bid on them and get them. Trump reversed that and bundled these contracts, which made it harder for African-American owned businesses to bid on them. Biden will build on the anti-bundling provisions of the Small Business Jobs Act of 2020. Go research this, Small Business Jobs Act of 2020, by having the Office of Management and Budget, the Small Business Administration, SBA, Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA, conduct a government-wide review of existing contract bundling to determine whether agencies are following existing rules and whether agencies have the ability to further ensure small business participation in federal and state procurement opportunities. Next, make sure economic relief because of COVID-19 reaches the African-American businesses that need it the most. This is huge. 41% of Black-owned businesses have gone out of business because of coronavirus, and a lot of our businesses for the COVID-19 money, the Paycheck Protection Program, were denied the money. The Center for Responsible Lending estimates that more than 90% of small businesses owned by people of color will not receive loans. The program is not taking into account the specific challenges that African-American businesses face in assessing funding and complying with the program's requirements. Okay, so read all of this. Okay, I'm just going over the highlights. I ain't got time. I've already been through this twice. It's 22 pages. I don't have that type of time today. Some of the things they're going to do: provide African-American entrepreneurs and other small business owners technical assistance, which is huge. Okay, because I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. I help people start businesses, help them get federal funding through grants for businesses. So grants you don't have to pay back. Okay, and I've seen the impact federal government can have, this reallocation of taxpayer dollars. All right. Provide African-American entrepreneurs and other small business owners technical assistance to help them apply for funding, as well as legal and accounting support to ensure their documentation, such as their financial records, tax filings, and other legal documents, are all in correct order. I can't stress this enough. A lot of businesses, I've seen it before, a lot of businesses can't become authorized vendors of city, state, county government, federal government, not because they can't do the job, because their paperwork is not correct. You got to submit that. With Wayne County, we had contracts with Wayne County under when Wayne County Executive Robert Ficano went out, and then you had Ficano came in, Ed McNamara went out. There was a change in the requirements, so I had to take us through the process of the recertification process to be a vendor of the County of Wayne. And we had to submit 3 years of tax returns. We had to submit resumes of the principal owners of the company. There were different things we had to go through. Okay. And then then they come out and do a site visit also. Okay. They come out and do a site visit to visit your facilities. I've been through the whole process. So a lot of African-American owned businesses get knocked out of this process just to become an authorized vendor so they can bid on contracts, because the paperwork is not correct. All right, let's continue here. Okay, the Trump administration and Congress should provide an additional infusion of operating capital to those CDFIs and community-focused lenders to ensure all African-American entrepreneurs have access to the technical assistance and support they need. It's just not access to capital, it's access to the technical assistance that's needed. Reserve half of all the new PPP Paycheck Protection Program, all new PPP funds for small businesses with 50 employees or less, which will definitely benefit African-American owned businesses if you apply for the money. Okay, this is another thing. If you apply for the money. So you can't say I'm a business owner, I ain't getting any money, and you ain't apply for nothing. Okay, You have to apply for money to get it. You have to buy a lotto ticket to win. I'm just saying, okay? So people understand this. They ain't gonna just come knock up on your door and say, "Would you like $50,000?" No, you have to apply for the money first. All right. I don't want people to misunderstand this. Okay, so let's continue. Now, incidentally, in Donald Trump's 2-page Fool's Gold plan, his agenda for Black America, his Fool's Gold plan, he didn't mention coronavirus at all. I wonder why, because he has no plan for it. But don't worry, you don't need a plan now. It's all right. You don't need a plan now. Okay, you need to be calling the moving van. That's what you should be doing. And you should be paying your legal bills because you're gonna need your attorneys come January 21st because the indictments are coming. Okay, reserve half of all new PPP funds for small businesses with 50 employees or less. Produce a weekly dashboard to show which small businesses are accessing loans. Produce a weekly dashboard to show which small businesses are accessing loans. Because what they did with a lot of these people that got this money, there's no accountability for it. With a lot of these people that got this money under Trump, because remember, Trump removed the inspector general that was supposed to oversee a lot of this stuff with the PPP money. He removed that inspector general and put in one of his cronies. Okay. Look, I have never read about corruption like this in the US until like this administration. I read about corruption in the US. Ain't nothing like this. He makes Richard Nixon look like a choir boy. So there's going to be a whole lot of Queen Letitia James, Attorney General of state of New York. She's gonna tear his behind up. Okay. This is the first time he got his ass whooped by a woman that he didn't have to pay for it. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. But expand African-American home ownership and access to affordable, safe housing. This is huge. One of the main ways people accumulate wealth in this country is through home ownership. We know because of redlining. We know because of the GI Bill signed in the law by President Roosevelt in 1994. A lot of these programs we were excluded from, not allowed to buy homes, and not allowed to accumulate wealth through home ownership. The gap between African-American and white home ownership is larger today than when the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. This has contributed to a jaw-dropping racial wealth gap, nearly 1,000% between median and white and African-American households. Because home ownership is how most families save and build wealth. Because home ownership is how most families save and build wealth. The disparity in home ownership is a central driver of the racial wealth gap. As President Joe Biden will invest $640 billion over 10 years, so every American has access to housing that is affordable, stable, safe, and healthy, etc. Okay, help families buy their first homes and build wealth by creating a new refundable, advanceable tax credit of up to $15,000. A new refundable, advanceable tax credit of up to $15,000. Read the details on this. Okay, I don't have time to go through all this. Tackle racial bias that leads to homes in communities of color being assessed by appraisers below their fair value. Okay. Housing in communities primary. So basically for African-American homes, it is 160 billion. They're valued at $160 billion less than white homes. The Brookings Institute had a study that dealt with this. Okay. Housing in communities primarily comprised of people of color is valued at tens of thousands of dollars below majority white communities, even when all other factors are the same, contributing to the racial wealth gap. This is true. To counteract this racial bias, Biden will establish a national standard for housing appraisals that ensures appraisers have adequate training and full appreciation for neighborhoods and do not hold implicit biases because of lack of community understanding. Next, roll back Trump administration policies gutting fair lending and fair housing protections, strongly enforce fair credit reporting laws, and create a new public credit reporting agency. Read the rest of this. All this deals with economics. All this deals with strengthening our economic condition, deals with wealth creation, home ownership, and attacking redlining are two important things. Also, increasing the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, which is part of his agenda, is part of his Build Back Better plan as well, which Moody's Investments did a study of Trump's economic plan, or lack thereof, and Biden's. And he said Biden's plan will create 18 million jobs and 7 million more jobs than Trump's plan. Okay. Also, it's important to note that the Obama-Biden administration created 1.5 million more jobs in the last 3 years, in the last 3 years of that administration than the first 3 years of the Trump administration also. Okay, just throw that in there as well. Okay, let's continue here. I'm just going over the highlights because this is 22 pages. I don't have time to get through all of this, but I'm gonna post this link again. You all can read this for yourself. Proper documentation ends all conversation. You don't have to believe a word that I say. Go research this yourself. Go read this yourself. Protect homeowners and renters from abusive lenders and landlords through a new homeowner and renter bill of rights. Oh, you mean abusive homeowners and landlord? You mean like Jared Kushner? Is that what you're talking about? You mean like Jared Kushner? Okay, hold on. I wasn't going to show you this, but we talked about this, what, Thursday night on my show? What was this? I think Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. This came out November 5th. November 5th. It was Thursday. Yeah, we talked about this Thursday on my show. Let's look at this here. Let's turn on the screen share. This is from the Washington Post. Name of this article: management company owned by Jared Kushner files to evict hundreds of families as moratoriums expire. Managed company owned by Jared Kushner, he went to Jared, files to evict hundreds of families as moratoriums expire. White House advisors company, Westminster Management, and other landlords prepare to remove tenants behind on rent during the pandemic that Jared had a hand in exacerbating because he mishandled it along with his father-in-law. Okay. And then this sister here, this is Tashika Booker, who lives there, and she talks about how she received a eviction notice, if I remember correctly. This is from November 5th, 2020. Westminster Management, an apartment company owned in part by White House senior advisor Jared Kushner, has submitted hundreds of eviction filings in court against tenants with past due rent during the coronavirus pandemic, according to interviews with more than a dozen tenants and a review of hundreds of the company's filings. A state eviction moratorium currently bars Maryland courts from removing tenants from their homes, and a federal moratorium offers renters additional protection. But like other landlords around the country, Westminster has been sending letters to tenants threatening legal fees and then filing eviction notices in court, a first legal step toward removing tenants. Those notices are now piling up in local courthouses as part of a national backlog of tens of thousands of cases that experts warn could lead to a surge in displaced renters across the country as eviction bans expire and courts resume processing cases. Read the rest of this article here from the Washington Post. Okay, you already had 8 million Americans slip into poverty since May of 2020. 8 million Americans slip into poverty. There's going to be a massive number of evictions on the other side of this pandemic. All right, and you have to have policies in place to address this. This is going to drastically increase the number of people who are homeless, most likely. And what we're dealing with now is the past 3 days, a record number of coronavirus cases. Friday, November 6th, 128,000 new cases as reported by the Washington Post. Because it's getting colder outside. People are retreating indoors. They're in closer proximity to one another. This allows coronavirus to spread easier. And we're in flu season now. So you're going to have people getting coronavirus and the flu. So it's going to get worse. And you have incompetent leadership in the White House. And we just saw, as I reported on my show yesterday, we just saw that Donald Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has coronavirus as well. The story just broke Friday night, November 6th, that he has coronavirus also. So the chickens are coming home to roost. This is what's taking place. All right, let's continue here. How's everybody doing? If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN Show, paypal.me /the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, click on the yellow donate button because that really helps, especially being that we're here 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week. Okay, it helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air. African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Now, the Black History 101 Mobile Museum is now scheduling people for in-person and virtual exhibits. The founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum is Dr. Khalid Al-Hakim, who was named among the change makers of NBC Universal's Erase the Hate campaign and listed as one of the 100 men of distinction for Black enterprise. For 25 years, the Black History 101 Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the Black Museum movement in America by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, and cultural events, making it the most traversed Black history mobile exhibit in American history. Now, a lot of times people are at home and they're hungry, they want a snack. Well, have you tasted the No Frowny Brownie from the Pink Bakery? The pinkbakery.com is the first Black-owned Big 8 allergen-free baking mix company. If you have not tasted their No Frowny Brownie, then what are you waiting for? They are vegan, gluten-free, and free of the Big 8 allergens. Visit their website, thepinkbakery.com, thepinkbakery.com. Now, with the stock market surging some, and it goes up and goes down, but it surges some people want to learn about investing in the stock market. Well, theprofitroom.com can help you with this. Theprofitroom.com is a stock market trading and education company that has mentorship programs that are designed for beginners. They teach individuals how to create generational wealth through trading and investing in the financial markets. They specialize in day trading and one-on-one mentorship, but also teach about stocks, options, futures, and the foreign exchange market. Visit their website, theprofitroom.com. theprofitroom.com. That's PROFIT, theprofitroom.com. Let them know you found out about this from the African History Network. Okay, let's go back to this and email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network, and we create a video commercial for you, and that airs when we rebroadcast these shows, and your commercial will be in the audio podcast of our shows. We're on 9 different audio podcast platforms, including iHeart, iTunes, Castbox, and Stitcher. All right. Okay, so we gave you the article here dealing with Jared Kushner. He went to Jared. Let's go back to this quickly here, dealing with what we hold Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris accountable to. Because a lot of people say, what do Black people get? What do Black people get? Well, you don't watch this show. If you watch this show, you would know. All right, let's look at this here. Let's turn this back on. Okay, protect homeowners and renters from abusive lenders and landlords through a new homeowner and renter bill of rights. Roll back Trump administration policies gutting fair lending and fair housing protection for homeowners. There have been at least 200 policy reversals that the Trump administration has made from the Obama administration. That stuff has to be reversed back. Everything from criminal justice reform, everything from criminal justice to gutting the civil rights departments and the Department of Education, the Environmental Protection Agency. It's been horrific what the Trump administration has been doing at the federal level. That stuff has to be reversed. Give local elected officials the tools and resources they need to combat gentrification. Give local elected officials the tools and resources they need to combat gentrification. Biden will implement the Obama-Biden administration's affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, requiring requiring communities receiving certain federal funding to proactively examine housing patterns and identify and address policies that have a discriminatory effect. Okay, a discriminatory effect. The Trump administration suspended this rule in 2018. Biden will ensure effective and rigorous enforcement of the Fair Housing Act and the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act. And he will reinstate the federal risk sharing program, which has helped secure financing for thousands of affordable rental housing units in partnership with housing finance agencies. Okay. Hold financial institutions accountable for discriminatory practices in the housing market. Read the rest of this. Restore the federal government's power to enforce settlement against discriminatory lenders. And the Trump administration has stripped the Office of Fair Lending and Equal Opportunity, a division of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, of its power to enforce settlements against lenders found to have discriminated against borrowers. For example, by charging significantly higher interest rates for people of color than white individuals. Biden will return power to the division so it can protect consumers from discrimination. So one of the first things, so Trump has really weakened the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And with some of these government agencies, what he did was early on in the administration, he put people in charge of these administrations and nominated them. Some of these were Senate approved positions. He put people in charge of these agencies that were at odds with the agency. One of them was Mick Mulvaney, who was who he put over the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Okay. And Mick Mulvaney has been in odds with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is a devastating impact that Trump has had at the federal level with these various agencies. Okay, let's continue. Strengthen and expand the Community Reinvestment Act to ensure that our nation's bank and non-bank financial services institutions are serving all communities. Eliminate local and state housing regulations that perpetuate discrimination. Increase access to affordable housing. Biden will invest in expanding the supply of affordable housing by establishing the $100 billion affordable housing fund to construct and upgrade affordable housing. 2, providing tax incentives for the construction of more affordable housing in communities that need it most. Okay, then we have protect homeowners during the COVID-19 crisis. This is huge. There's a massive number of evictions coming. Biden has previously called for a rent freeze for qualifying individuals for the duration of the crisis, a rent freeze for qualifying individuals for the duration of the crisis, and a halt to foreclosures and evictions as people get back on their feet. Some banks are raising mortgage borrowing standards and requiring significantly higher down payments. Biden would also restrict the big banks' ability to abandon the African-American community by withdrawing from housing markets for all but the best off buyers. Okay. They have links here. You can go read more. You can read his housing plan. These are all things we hold them accountable for. We can't stay at the inauguration for 4 years. We can't stay in amazement and be mesmerized for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. All these policies and more not just these, but others, because there are other agendas, various organizations, various African-American organizations have things like this. All this, we got to push through, especially this first 2 years. We don't know if Democrats will maintain control of the House of Representatives in the 2022 midterm election. Hopefully they will. Just as Republicans and Moscow Mitch McConnell rammed through the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the U.S. Supreme Court, and she was confirmed 9 days before the November 3rd presidential election. And I guarantee you there were a lot of people who voted against Trump who remember that. The day after Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed in the U.S. Senate, what did Moscow Mitch McConnell do? He sent the Senate on a recess until November 9th without passing a coronavirus bill in conjunction with the Democrats to bail out and help the American people. He sent them on recess. This is why these two special elections, January 5th, 2021 in Georgia for those 2 U.S. Senate seats, are so crucial. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I'm also not stupid. I study policy, I study law, and I see whose policies are most beneficial for us. And I see who keeps blocking those policies that are most beneficial for us. I see who keeps trying to take away what we have and push us back. If Reverend Raphael Warnock and if John Ossoff win those 2 Senate seats, that means Mitch McConnell is not in control of the Senate. That means Republicans don't control the Senate. Democrats can. And a lot of these bills, you can get them passed through the Senate. If there's a 50-50 tie in a vote in the Senate, who gets the tie-breaking vote? The MVP, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This is why this stuff is so serious. I'm going to show you the Jobs and Justice Act 2020 in just a minute here. We're just going to go through a few more of this stuff here. You can read all this yourself. You have more time than I do. Let's see, blow this up. How's everybody doing now? Is anybody besides Roland Martin, is anybody going through this stuff with you all before? We've been doing this since May of 2020. Okay. And being that I'm using Restream now and learn how to use the screen share, I'm actually showing it to you. Protect homeowners during the COVID-19 crisis. Donald Trump in his 2-page Fool's Gold plan for Black America, he didn't even talk about coronavirus. Promote wealth building and a more secure retirement. Promote equitable wealth building and a more secure retirement. The typical white family holds approximately 10 times wealth as the typical African-American family, a disparity that dramatically increased over the past half century. Today, the typical wealth of a white family is $171,000 compared to just $17,600 for the typical African-American family. This inequity means that many African-American families have insufficient wealth to enjoy a secure retirement. This means many African-American families have insufficient wealth to enjoy a secure retirement. In fact, in 2016, the average African-American family had just $25,000 saved for retirement, due in part to a retirement saving system that affords limited incentives for middle-class African-American families to save for retirement. To make the U.S. retirement system more secure and equitable, Biden will, 1, equalize the tax benefits of defined contributions. Equalize the tax benefits of defined contributions. 2, remove penalties for caregivers who want to save for retirement. Remove penalties for caregivers who want to save for retirement. African Americans, especially African American women, are disproportionately make up caregivers. African Americans are more likely to be caregivers than whites. They also bear disproportionate caregiving responsibilities relative to white caregivers. Biden will support informal caregivers by allowing them to make catch-up, quote unquote, catch-up contributions to retirement accounts, even if they're not earning income in the formal labor market, as has been proposed in bipartisan legislation by Representatives Jackie Walowski and Harley Ruda. Next, give small businesses a tax for starting a retirement plan and giving workers the chance to save at work. Half of African American workers lack access to a retirement saving plan at work. Biden calls for widespread adoption of workplace savings plans and offers tax credits to small businesses to offset much of the cost. Next, make Social Security benefits more generous and equitable. Make Social Security benefits more generous and equitable. Older African Americans disproportionately depend on Social Security benefits for retirement income. To bolster retirement security for older African Americans who have spent a lifetime working, the Biden Social Security, or Biden Harris Social Security reform plan will raise benefits for vulnerable beneficiaries, including widows and widowers, low-wage workers, and long-duration beneficiaries who may have exhausted all other assets. In addition, Biden proposes to boosting average benefits across the board while putting Social Security on a long-term path to solvency by raising payroll taxes for workers with more than $400,000 in earnings. Okay. Next, in communities that need it most, fully implement Congressman James Clyburn's 10-20-30 plan to help all individuals living in persistently impoverished communities. To tackle persistent poverty in all communities in both urban and rural America, 25% of African Americans live in rural America. President-elect Joe Biden and Madam Vice President-elect Kamala Harris support applying Congressman James Clyburn's 10-20-30 formula to all federal programs targeting funds to census tracts with persistent poverty. Next, create a White House strike force to partner with rural communities to help them access federal funds. Next, drive additional capital into low-income communities to spur the development of low-income housing. Okay. Build and modernize infrastructure in communities that need it most. Biden has offered a transformational $1.3 trillion plan to create millions of good-paying union jobs, roads, ports, waterways, schools, broadband, schools, and more. His plan includes specific measures to close the resource gap in communities of color. He'll do this by, one, invest in historically marginalized communities and bring everyone to the table for transportation planning. Two, bring broadband to every American household. The coronavirus pandemic has exposed a lot of the structural inequities in the society based upon race. One of them deals with the digital divide. And when a lot of children had to go to school from home through the internet, a lot of communities don't have broadband internet service. A lot of rural communities don't have broadband internet service. So that's part of this $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill. All right, let's continue for a few more minutes. Bring broadband to every American household. As President Biden will close the digital divide, first, he will invest $20 billion in rural broadband infrastructure. He will triple funding to expand broadband access in rural areas and ensure that the work of installing broadband provides high-paying jobs with benefits. Read the rest of that. Okay, then you can read his infrastructure plan. All right. Support African-American workers. I find it interesting when people say, oh, what we get vote for Biden. Did you read this? Do you listen to our show? We've been through all this stuff. Okay. Biden is proposing a plan to grow a stronger, more inclusive middle class, the backbone of the American economy, by strengthening public and private sector unions and helping all workers bargain successfully for what they deserve. Biden knows that African Americans face unique challenges as workers. Biden will support these workers by, one, fight for equal pay. African American women earned 61 cents for every dollar that the average white male made in 2017. This totals $23,653 less in earnings in a year and $946,120 less in a lifetime. This deals with Black Women's Equal Pay Day. We've talked about this numerous times on this show. This deals with Black Women's Equal Pay Day. This ties into the bill that Democrats passed in the House of Representatives in July 2019 to raise the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. Okay. This ties into a couple nights ago on our show. We talked about this story here from blackenterprise.com. And this deals with how the average Black woman loses out on almost $1 million in lost earnings over her working career, over a 40-year working career. Okay, now let me close out some of all this advertising stuff. Okay, I know you gotta make money, Black Enterprise. I ain't mad at you, but damn. Okay, hold on. Read this article right here. I've talked about it numerous times. I deal with this in my lectures. I speak across the country before coronavirus, and I ask people, how many of you all are familiar with Black Women's Equal Pay Day? Most people never heard of it. I'm talking to African American women, never heard of it before. All right. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. This is from October 17th, 2019, October 17th, 2019 for Black Enterprise. Can you all see this? Is this large enough for you? Now, African-American men, there's a wage gap there. We make about 79 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. An African-American woman will lose out on $946,120 over a 40-year career if she continues to make 61 cents on the dollar that the average white man earns due to the wage gap, analysis by the National Women's Law Center shows. Assuming she and her white non-Hispanic male counterpart began work at age 20, a Black woman would have to work until she is 86 years old to catch up to what a white non-Hispanic man has been paid by age 60, the press release states. A Black woman will have to work till she's age 86 to catch up to what a non-Hispanic white man has been paid by age 60. Now, you remember a couple weeks ago, little Jared Kushner said that for Donald Trump's policies to work, Black people have to want to succeed. Well, African Americans, we work hard. We want to succeed. Now, I don't think African American women want to work to age 86 to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes by age 60. But notice when they talk about work harder, they don't want to talk about racism and white supremacy. They don't want to talk about the wage gap. They don't want to talk about redlining. They don't want to talk about all these policies that have been put in place that benefit them. Notice that they just say work harder. Okay. But at the same time, his Westminster management company is trying to evict people during a pandemic. Okay, read this full article here from blackenterprise.com. This shows you the connection. Once again, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. This shows you a connection between law and policies and regulations and conditions. Okay. All right. And then when we talk about raising the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour, is not $15 an hour is not the ceiling. That's a floor. That's a minimum. That's a living wage. If that goes into effect, you will lift 40 million people out of poverty. Okay, let's continue. The National Women's Law Center, the National Women's Law Center found that Black women face even larger pay disparity in certain states. In the state of Louisiana, Black women are paid on average 47 cents for every dollar their white non-Hispanic male counterparts make, which is the worst state for Black women's wage equality. So when you talk about lost earnings of $1 million, I want people to understand that this is real money. You talk about lost earnings of $1 million over the average working life from age starting at age 20 of African American women. That's less money they can use to buy houses, buy real estate, invest in the stock market. That's less money coming to their families to help lift their families out of poverty and create wealth. This is real. Then we tie into this student loan debt, because African Americans carry more student loan debt than white people. So when you talk about, if you come from a household that makes $125,000 or less, you can go to college. You can go to a 2-year or 4-year college for free, because this is part of their plan, the Biden Harris plan. You can go to college for free. Then a lot of African Americans go to college and not incur student loan debt. African American women coming from a 4-year institution carry about $32,000 in student loan debt. African Americans in general are somewhere maybe 26, 28, something like that, but they carry more student loan debt than white people. So if we're carrying more student loan debt and then we're making 79 cents on the dollar or 61 cents on the dollar, then we're being crushed by student loan debt and we're not making as much money, even though we have equal degrees and equal credentials. This has real life consequences. This has real life economic consequences. Let's see here. Let's continue. Okay, so they deal with the significant wealth gap. There's a significant racial wealth gap in America, and Black women's wage gap certainly plays a role in it, said Emily Martin, Vice President for Education and Workplace Justice. For many Black women, the cost of the lifetime wage gap comes to $1 million. And in some states, it's more than $1 million. It's time for the U.S. Senate to follow the lead of the House of Representatives and pass the Paycheck Fairness Act. The Paycheck Fairness Act. Women and their families literally cannot wait any longer. That's another bill that has to pass. Now, when we look at African American women with advanced degrees, advanced education among Black women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. In fact, the gap is largest for the most educated African American women. Doctorate degree holders who are African American women tend to make 60% of what their white male counterparts make. 60% of what their white male counterparts make. But many of them have student loan debt. So they're making 60% and have more student loan debt. Quote, Black women have the highest student loan debt of any racial or ethnic group. For an undergraduate degree, the average Black woman carries nearly $30,400 in debt compared to $19,500 for white men. The wage gap lessens Black women's ability to pay off educational debt, creating an additional barrier to saving money that could be used to buy a home, start a business, or use for emergencies. Okay, so many African Americans understand this. This is why they voted for Biden and not Trump, because they understand that Biden's policies will be much more beneficial for us and for America in general, but especially for African Americans than Trump. Also, he ain't crazy like Trump. Okay, they understand Biden will handle coronavirus and get coronavirus under control and then get the economy under control and get the economy growing again, open back up the economy again. Trump is not going to be able to do that. Go look at the reports on new cases. We deal with this every day on the show. New cases, 128,000 new cases on Friday. Okay, set a third day in a row. It set a record. Third day in a row, over 120,000. Washington Post. Look at this article. Coronavirus updates. New U.S. cases surpass 128,000, setting a record for the third straight day. Because you see the articles we post here on our fan page, the African History Network. I monitor about 35 different news sources on a daily basis. And you notice I don't deal with a whole bunch of entertainment stuff. Coronavirus updates. New U.S. cases surpass 128,000, setting a record for third straight day. This is from November 6, 2020. Now, 2 to 4 weeks from now, you're going to have a record number of deaths, because the deaths follow the increase in cases by about 2 to 4 weeks. Another day, another record shattered. The United States reported more than 128,000 new coronavirus cases Friday, as the number of fatalities nationwide exceeded 1,000 for the fourth consecutive day. The 7-day average of new cases was nearly 100,000, almost 20,000 higher than on this day last week. It's getting worse. And Donald Trump's super spreader events that he was having across the country trying to get reelected are contributing to this. What the hell do you have to lose? The correct answer was everything. I told you when Donald Trump asked African Americans in 2016, what the hell do you have to lose? The correct answer was everything. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing? We got Vira, we got Levon, Anayo, Anthony, Donna, just a few of the people watching. If you like this type of information, also you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN Show, paypal.me /the AHN Show. And at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, so this helps us keep broadcasting, stay on the air, keep researching. And we're on 6 nights a week. So we're on, I'm a radio talk show host here in Detroit. 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. So we're on Monday through Fridays, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight, and we usually go over. We broadcast on the radio station for an hour, and we also broadcast on my social media platforms. And then I'm on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. I've been in that time slot 4 years. Been doing radio 10 years in total, 4 years on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation here in Detroit. All right. Okay, so African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast and email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Let you know how you can advertise with us. And you can advertise during our nightly show, because our Sunday night show is totally sold out now, but we do have a few slots left for the Sunday night show. Okay. All right, let's continue here. Let me flip back over. We're going to wrap up shortly because I really didn't plan to go this long, but you know, one thing leads to another, and that's so much information. So we keep going. All right, let's go back to this. Biden's plan. Okay. So how many of y'all had not read Biden's plan? Okay. And if you watch my show, you know we've taken you through it at least twice. But how many people have never read it? How many people did not even know it existed? Okay, so support African-American workers. Support African-American workers. All right. I'm all for economic empowerment. People in 2016 said we don't need to vote. We just need to build businesses, invest in the stock market, things like that, do economic empowerment. We're going to do like the Asians and all that. That's cool. But you also need to vote for a president whose policies are going to protect the economy that your Black-owned business operates within and depends upon. You also need to vote for a House of Representatives and a U.S. Senate that are going to pass bills that help your economy and help your people so they have more business to spend with your business. This is all connected. I haven't, where can I find it? JoeBiden.com. But we'll post a link again here. This takes you directly to it. JoeBiden.com /Black America. We'll post the link again. Keep in mind, everybody, this plan came out May 4th, 2020. That's why May through June, I took 6 weeks of my Sunday night show to break down one of the 6 parts of this so we would understand this. Support African-American workers. Fight for equal pay. African-American women earn 61 cents. We talked about that. For every dollar the average white male made in 2017, this totals $23,653 less earnings a year. Okay. How many of y'all can use an extra $23,000 a year? I'm just curious. And $946,000, almost $1 million over their lifetime. The Obama-Biden administration protected more workers against retaliation for discussing wages and required employers to collect and report wage gaps to the federal government. As president, Joe Biden will codify this into law, and he'll make it easier for workers to join together in class action lawsuits, shift the burden to employers to prove pay gaps exist for job-related reasons, and increase penalties against companies that discriminate, as called for in the Paycheck Fairness Act. The Paycheck Fairness Act, which passed the House of Representatives in 2019, but is being blocked in the Senate right now. This is why those 2 Senate races in Georgia, January 5th, 2020, are so important. Okay? Democrats, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I study policies and I see whose policies are most beneficial for us, and I see who's blocking these policies. This is why Democrats have to take back control of the U.S. Senate with these 2 Senate races, January 5th, 2021. And he'll hold companies accountable by increasing funding for investigators and enforcement actions. Next, ensure federally funded projects protect workers. Ensure federally funded projects and protect workers. Next, encourage diverse hiring and promotion practices. Then restore the federal government's role and for other employers to advance opportunities for all workers. Protect essential workers in the COVID-19 crisis. This is huge. Protect essential workers in the COVID-19 crisis. Ensure all frontline workers like grocery store employees qualify for priority access to personnel protective equipment, PPE, and COVID-19 testing based upon their risk of exposure to the virus, as well as child care assistance and others. And other forms of emergency COVID-19 support. Expand access to effective personal protective equipment, including through the use of the Defense Production Act. Establish and enforce health and safety standards for workplaces. Enact premium pay for frontline workers putting themselves at risk. There is no substitute for ensuring worker safety, but all frontline workers putting their lives on the line should receive premium pay for their work. This premium pay should be in addition to paid sick leave and caregiving leave for every worker, which Biden called for in his plan, and $15 minimum wage for all workers. So in general, Biden also supports raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You have to have a president who will sign that bill into law. Biden will. Trump won't. You have to have a Senate to pass the bill. It already passed the House of Representatives. You have to have a Senate to pass the bill. You have to have a president to sign the bill into law. Okay. Turn unemployment insurance into employment insurance. African-American workers are more likely to work in jobs subject to reduced hours, furloughs, and layoffs during the pandemic. Biden will transform unemployment insurance into employment insurance for millions of workers by getting states to adopt and dramatically scale up short-time compensation programs. Under short-time compensation, also known as work sharing, firms in distress keep workers employed but at reduced hours, and the federal government helps make up the difference in wages. The Obama-Biden administration championed this approach in the U.S., and so far, more than half of states have established short-time compensation programs. For the current crisis, the administration should move rapidly to scale up short-time compensation in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands to save or restore millions of jobs. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth-bound resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, the adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. All this deals with laws, policies, regulations that impact the economy that your African-American owned business needs to be healthy to survive. Expand access to high quality education and tackle racial inequity in our education system. Provide high quality universal pre-kindergarten for all 3 and 4-year-olds. Eliminate the funding gap between white and non-white districts and rich and poor districts in order to give teachers a raise and expand STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM curriculum in underserved school districts. Okay, read all the details on this. Improve teacher diversity. For African-American students, having just one African-American teacher in elementary school reduces the probability of dropping out. Having just one African-American teacher in elementary school reduces the probability of dropping out. Biden will support more innovative approaches to recruiting teachers of color, including supporting high school students in assessing dual enrollment classes that give them an edge in teacher preparation programs, helping paraprofessionals or teachers' assistants, work towards their teaching certificate, and working with HBCUs and minority serving institutions to recruit and prepare teachers. Dual enrollment is huge. When I was doing educational consulting with a local community college here in the Detroit area, I would go into high schools to talk to high school students to get them to enroll in college classes at the community college. Dual enrollment means that while you're in high school, you can also take college classes at a community college. Usually it's a community college. It could be a university, but usually it's a community college. Community colleges will have these agreements with the public school system or with different high schools. And in many cases, your child can graduate with a high school diploma and graduate with an associate's degree at the same time, a 2-year associate's degree. So when they go to college, they only have to do 2 years in college. Like if they go to a university, a 4-year university, they only have to do 2 years because they did the prerequisites and things like that during dual enrollment, which reduces how much money you have to spend on college at the university when they graduate from high school. All this deals with policies and laws, regulations. So improve teacher diversity. That helps attack the school to prison pipeline, reinstate the Obama-Biden administration's actions to diversify our schools, ensure that African-American students are not inappropriately identified as having disabilities, while also ensuring that African-American students with disabilities have the support to succeed. Being inappropriately identified as having disabilities or ADHD and different things like this, learning disabilities. This contributes to the school to prison pipeline. African-American students are 40% more likely to be identified as having any disability and twice as likely to be identified as having certain disabilities, such as emotional disturbance and intellectual disabilities. The Obama-Biden administration issued regulations to address racial disparities in special education programs, including disproportionate identification. The Trump administration attempted to illegally delay the Obama-Biden administration's regulation. Biden will fully implement this regulation and provide educators the resources that they need to provide students with disabilities and high quality education by fully funding the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Next, address the African-American student debt crisis. This is huge. Okay. This deals with finances. This deals with economics. All right. The African-American student debt crisis. The student debt burden has a disproportionate impact on African-Americans, as we just talked about. The typical bachelor's degree graduate has about $16,000 in debt compared to $23,400 for African-American students. According to a recent Brookings Institution study, African-Americans graduating with a 4-year degree are 5 times more likely to default on their student loans than white graduates. African-Americans graduating with a 4-year degree are 5 times more likely to default on their student loans than white graduates. African-American students are 3 times more likely to default on their student loans than white student borrowers. The inequitable burden of student loan debt contributes to the stark racial wealth gap that exists in society. The inequitable burden of student loan debt contributes to the stark racial wealth gap that exists in society. Biden's plans to address student loan debt will alleviate student debt burdens by one, including the COVID-19 response and immediate cancellation of a minimum of $10,000 of federal student loan debt, including in the COVID-19 response and immediate cancellation of a minimum of $10,000 of federal student loan debt. Two, forgiving all undergraduate tuition-related federal student debt from 2-year and 4-year public colleges for debt holders earning up to $125,000 a year. This will apply to individuals holding federal student loans for tuition from private HBCUs and minority serving institutions. 3, forgiving loan payments for individuals making $25,000 or less per year and capping loan payments at 5% of discretionary income for those making more. 4, I think that's 4. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fixing the public service loan forgiveness program. Fixing the public service loan forgiveness program and forgiving $10,000 of undergraduate or graduate student debt for every year of national or community service up to 5 years. Forgiving $10,000 of undergraduate or graduate student debt for every year of national or community service up to 5 years. So you can get up to $50,000 of student loan debt forgiven through community service or national service. Cracking down on private lenders profiteering off students by empowering the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to take action against private lenders who are misleading students about their options and do not provide an affordable payment plan when individuals are experiencing acute periods of financial hardship. So this deals with the predatory lending, so to speak. It's like predatory lending when it comes to student loans and how they prey on African Americans and Hispanics. So all this ties into the racial wealth gap as well. This ties into economics and the racial wealth gap, permitting the discharge of student loans and bankruptcy, which is huge. Currently, you can't discharge student loans through a bankruptcy, permitting the discharge of student loans in bankruptcy. Next, increase college completion by making college affordable for African American students. Increase college completion by making college affordable for African American students. Our post-secondary education system has not done enough to help African American students access, afford, and succeed in high-quality post-secondary education. 64% of white students graduate from 4-year institutions compared to only 40% of African Americans. 64% of white students graduate from 4-year institutions compared to only 40% of African Americans. To help African American students access and complete college, Biden will, 1, make public colleges and universities tuition free for all students whose family incomes are below $125,000 a year, including students at public HBCUs. Okay. What does this mean? This means if your child is going to college, okay, this means if your child wants to go to college, they want to go to loans and things like this. Okay. They can go for free. All right. Let me see. I want to make sure. What is this here? Okay. What happened? All right. Okay. So we're still on. Okay. Can you all hear me? All right. Let's continue. Okay. So that's what this means. Okay, can you all hear me? And you all can still see everything, right? Okay, so make public colleges and universities tuition free for all students whose family incomes are below $125,000 a year. And for some reason this popped up twice. Let me see something here. Let me see if I just minimize that. This is the one I want. Okay, where are we? Oh, I think okay. I think I see what happened. It took it out. Okay. All right. As long as we're still on. All right. Make public colleges and universities tuition free for all students whose families incomes are below $125,000 a year, including students at public HBCUs. Providing 2 years of community college or other high quality training programs without debt for any hardworking individual looking to learn and improve their skills to keep up with the changing nature of work. This commitment includes 2-year public HBCUs. Individuals will also be able to use these funds to pursue training programs that have a track record of participants completing their programs and securing good jobs, including adults who never had the chance to pursue additional education beyond high school, or who never or who need to learn new skills. Okay, so at community colleges, one of the things I did was I was recruiting people for 2-year certificate programs, 18-month certificate programs. Okay, and they have certificate programs like it could be HVAC, it could be cybersecurity. It could be EMT technician, all different types of things like this. This is what they're talking about. Okay. Targeting additional financial support to low income and middle class individuals by doubling the maximum value of Pell Grants, significantly increasing the number of middle class Americans who can participate in the program. According to the Department of Education, almost 60% of African American undergraduates receive a Pell Grant, including the 2015-2016 during the 2015-2016 academic year. Biden will also restore formerly incarcerated individuals' eligibility for Pell Grants. Biden will also restore formerly incarcerated individuals' eligibility for Pell Grants. So basically what that basically means is, now, right now, if you are a former felon and you want to go to college, you can get a Pell Grant now. Question, because this is one of the things I did. I was recruiting students for community college, and I was helping ex-offenders go to school. On the FAFSA form, federal application for student financial aid, the FAFSA form, question number 23 on the FAFSA form asks you something to the effect of, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Okay. So a lot of people will see that and say yes, and then think that's the end of the story. Oh, I can't go to college. No, keep reading. It will then ask you something to the effect of, when you were convicted of a crime, when you were convicted of a felony, was this during a period of time when you were receiving federal financial aid? Meaning, okay, when you were convicted of this felony, was this during a period of time when you were receiving like a federal student loan or a Pell Grant from the federal government? So for most ex-offenders, the answer is no. Okay, so you would answer that question truthfully. You answer that question no, if that's the case. That means that even though you are ex-offender, you have a felony, that means that you are eligible, you can be eligible for federal financial aid. One of the things you'll have to do is, if you were incarcerated during a period of time of like 18 for men, 18 to 25 years old, during that period of time, you were supposed to apply for selective services, okay, in case there was a draft. If you did not apply because you were incarcerated, what you have to do is you have to go to the county clerk's office in the county where the prison was, where you were housed, and you have to get documentation from them that you were incarcerated during this period of time when you were supposed to apply to apply to the federal government in case there's a draft. Get documentation, say, hey, I was incarcerated. This is why I could not apply. And you have to there's a board or something you have to submit to get a clearance, to get a ruling. You make your case, you write a letter. We have them write a letter, explain, hey, I was in prison during this period of time. I'm out of prison. I'm trying to go to college. This is what I want to major in. I'm trying to turn my life around, etc. Tell the truth. Okay. And they do it at least back in 2007, 2008, with a 2007, 2008, when I was doing this, they do it on a case by case basis. Okay. So what Biden is doing is making it across the board, where if you're an ex-offender, you can go to college and get a Pell Grant, make it across the board. Okay. Even if you were receiving financial aid, apparently, even if you were receiving federal financial aid during a period of time when you committed a felony. All right, let's continue here. So he's going even further. Biden will restore formerly incarcerated individuals eligibility for Pell Grants, and grants you don't pay back. Next, invest over $70 billion in the historically Black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions that will train our next generation of African-American professionals. Okay. And you can read the rest of this. Make HBCUs more affordable for their students. Biden will invest $18 billion in grants to 4-year HBCUs and minority serving institutions. Reduce disparities in funding for HBCUs and MSIs. Invest $10 billion to create at least 200 new centers of excellence that serve as research incubators and connect students underrepresented in fields critical to our nation's future, including fields tackling climate change, globalization, inequality, health disparities, and cancer, to learning and career, and connect all these to learning and career opportunities. Build the high-tech labs and facilities and digital infrastructure needed for learning, research, and innovation at HBCUs and MSIs. Invest $5 billion in graduate programs in teaching, healthcare, and STEM fields, and will develop robust internship and career pipelines at major research agencies. Next, create a Title I post-secondary education to help students at under-resourced 4-year schools complete their programs. Make $50 billion investment in workforce training. Make a $50 billion investment in workforce training, including community college, business partnerships, and apprenticeships. Community college, business partnerships, and apprenticeships. These funds will create and support partnerships between community colleges, businesses, unions, state, local, and tribal governments, universities, and high schools to identify in-demand knowledge and skills in a community and develop or modernize training programs, which could be as short as a few months or as long as 2 years, that lead to a relevant, high-demand, industry-recognized credential. So this is his education program. You can read that. You can read his education program in full, joebiden.com/education. Go research all this. Don't take my word for this. Go research all this. Next, make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities by race. Okay. So they talk about COVID-19 and the COVID-19. Now, Donald Trump in his 2-page agenda, his fool's gold plan, he didn't even talk about coronavirus. Okay. He didn't even mention coronavirus. Didn't want to deal with it because he doesn't have a plan to deal with it. This is how elections have consequences. Donald Trump keeps lying. Black people keep dying. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the long-standing pervasive disparities that exist across our healthcare system. Due to unequal access to treatment. And early analysis indicates that counties with majority African-American populations have coronavirus infection rates 3 times higher than counties with majority white residents. Okay. And early analysis indicates that counties with majority African-American populations have coronavirus infection rates 3 times higher than counties with majority white residents, with death rates nearly 6 times higher. Death rates nearly 6 times higher. So now of the deaths, is about 235,000, 236,000 deaths. About 20% are African Americans. We make up 1/5 in general now. The death rate, we make up about 1/5 of the coronavirus deaths. And we're 14% of the U.S. well, 13.5% of the U.S. population. African Americans are more likely to be uninsured. Also, although COVID-19 can hit anyone anywhere, it does not affect every community the same. African Americans are more likely to be uninsured and report higher rates of chronic health problems, and these factors increase their chances of becoming seriously ill and dying from the disease. These factors increase their chances of becoming seriously ill and dying from the disease. Biden calls on Congress to immediately enact Senator Kamala Harris's bill to create a task force to address the racial disparities that have been laid bare by this pandemic, as President Biden will do everything in his power to eliminate health disparities. There are less people. So even before the coronavirus pandemic, less African Americans had health insurance under Trump than under President Barack Obama, because Trump has attacked the subsidies dealing with the Affordable Health Care Act. And you see, the Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. The Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. Okay. And then also check out this document here. We'll pull this up. It's still at whitehouse.gov. Donald Trump is not taking it down. Progress of the African American community under the Obama administration. Those who watch my show, I've talked about this before. I've shown it to you before. Progress of the African American community under the Obama administration. So this shows directly how the policies from the Obama administration positively impacted the African American community. It's at whitehouse.gov, and it's still there. Let me try to pull it up. I have it bookmarked in Firefox, but I'm using Google Chrome right now. Let me see here. Let me still have it here. I may have to. I'll post a link here, but read that. A lot of those policies have been attacked or reversed under the Trump administration. Okay, that has to be reversed under Biden. Actually, in Biden's plan, he references that as well. There's a link in Biden's plan where he talks about that. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm at whitehouse.gov right now. Let me see if I can pull this up. So many of us don't understand the concept of protecting gains that were made. How do you protect gains that were made if you're under the misconception that no gains were made? See, this is why elections have consequences. Let's see here. I may have to post. Okay, I'll post the link. All right, let's continue. How's everybody doing? We're almost done with this. And then I just want to show you the information quickly from the Congressional Black Caucus, their Jobs and Justice Act 2020. Because a lot of people don't know this information. Because I see comments, I read the comments, I see people, oh, what do we get? What do we get? Well, you don't listen to the show. You haven't been paying attention. Okay. Make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities by race. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the long-standing. Okay, but we dealt with that. Ensuring access to healthcare during this. In the short term, Biden's COVID-19 response plan calls on the Trump administration to drop its support of a lawsuit to overturn Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act. While you have this global pandemic taking place, Donald Trump's Attorney General William Barr is in court to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act. That case goes before the U.S. Supreme Court November 10th, 2020, exactly 1 week after the November 3rd presidential election. They want to kick at least 20 million people off of healthcare. They want to kick at least 20 million people off of healthcare. And COVID-19 now is it now is also a pre-existing condition, because you can have long-term illnesses and side effects from COVID-19, even though you recover. Okay, this is what Trump is trying to do right now, trying to kick 20 million people off of healthcare during a global pandemic, and the impact of the pandemic in this country is largely his fault because of him mishandling the coronavirus pandemic, which then tanked the economy. All right, so during this crisis, Biden would expand access to quality, affordable health care for all through, 1, creating a public option, 2, providing full payment of premiums for COBRA plans, 3, increasing Affordable Care Act subsidies, 4, reopening Obamacare enrollment so uninsured individuals can get insured. One of the things that the Trump administration did was they cut in half the amount of time for open enrollment. Usually open enrollment, if I remember correctly, was 90 days. They cut it down to 45 days. Then they cut the marketing budget for open enrollment by 90%. So usually, see, under the Obama administration, you would see commercials on TV and hear commercials on the radio saying, hey, this is open enrollment. Go to the website or what have you, and sign up for the Affordable Health Care Act. Trump cut the marketing budget by 90% and then cut the amount of time for open enrollment in half. Next, reopening Obamacare enrollment so uninsured individuals can get insured. Next, increasing federal investments in Medicaid, Next, ensuring that every person, whether insured or uninsured, will not have to pay $1 out of pocket for visits related to COVID-19 testing, treatment, preventive services, and any eventual vaccine. No co-payments, no deductibles, and no surprise medical billing. Okay. Next, ensure access to affordable, high quality health care beyond the crisis. You can read the rest of that. Because of Obamacare, over 100 million people no longer have to worry that an insurance company will deny coverage or charge higher premiums just because they have a pre-existing condition. This impacted people whether they had the Affordable Health Care Act or not, protected them against pre-existing conditions. There, according to one study, there are 102 million Americans who suffer from pre-existing conditions. Okay, so insurance companies can no longer set annual or time limits on coverage. Roughly 20 million additional Americans obtain the peace of mind that comes with health insurance. Read the rest of that. So he will help address racial disparities in the healthcare system in the following ways. 1, reducing the uninsured rate of African Americans, creating a public option. Okay, so we talked about nationally, 11% of non-elderly African Americans are uninsured compared to 8% of white. Next, improving care for patients with chronic conditions, improving care for patients with chronic conditions by coordinating among all of a patient's doctors. This is particularly important for patients with chronic conditions such as diabetes and hypertension or high blood pressure, which disproportionately impact African Americans. Next, lowering costs for African Americans enrolled in Obamacare plans by increasing the value of tax credits to lower premium and lowering deductibles by making other changes to how the tax credits are calculated. Next, lowering drug prices, then reducing our unacceptably high African American maternal mortality rate. African American women are 2.5 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than non-Hispanic white women. California came up with a strategy that halved or cut in half the state's maternal death rate. The Biden plan takes the California strategy nationwide. Next, expanding access to reproductive health care, including contraception and protecting the constitutional right to choose. Then we have doubling the nation's investment in community health centers, expanding access to mental health care, which is definitely needed in the African American community. African Americans are far less likely to receive mental health services or compared to white adults. Biden will ensure mental health parity and eliminating the stigma around mental health. The stigma around mental health are critical to closing this gap. Next, tackling social detriments of health. Okay, because racial health disparities are the result of years of systemic inequality, not only in our healthcare system, but across our economy. Other parts of Joe Biden's agenda are also necessary to improve the overall well-being of African Americans. For example, African Americans are more likely to face exposure to air pollutants that cause respiratory illnesses that make them particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. We're dealing with environmental racism. Okay. Invest in a diverse talent of HBCUs. All right. Build a diverse pipeline of healthcare professionals by investing in healthcare graduate programs at HBCUs and MSIs. Then again, the justice, strengthening America's commitment to justice. They deal with criminal justice and break that down. It's broken. This Lift Every Voice plan, this African American, agenda to empower Black America is broken into 6 parts. The Biden plan for strengthening America's commitment to justice is based on several core principles. We can and must reduce the number of people incarcerated in this country while also reducing crime. Our criminal next bullet point, our criminal justice system cannot be just unless we root out the racial, gender, and income-based disparities in the system. African American mothers and fathers should feel confident that their children are safe walking the streets of America. And when a police officer pins on that shield and walks out the door, the officer's family should know they'll come home at the end of the day. Additionally, women and children are uniquely impacted by the criminal justice system, and the system needs to address their unique needs. Next bullet point, our criminal justice system must be focused on redemption and rehabilitation. Next, no one should be profiteering off of our criminal justice system. So he's calling for abolishing privatized prisons. Donald Trump reversed the August 2016 initiative from the Obama administration to stop to end contracts with privatized prisons. Okay, Trump was supported by Core Civic, which used to be called Corrections Corporation of America, the largest owner-operator of privatized prisons in the country. He was also supported by Geo Group. Okay, they donated almost $600,000 to Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. And the privatized prisons were losing money under the Obama administration, the Obama-Biden administration, because the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015, because the war on drugs was winding down under the Obama administration. All this has been reversed under Trump. Okay, while he takes credit for the First Step Act, which the Congressional Black Caucus helped get passed in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, while he takes credit for that, he's been reversing these other criminal justice reform initiatives from the Obama administration. Okay, let's continue. So expand and use the power of the U.S. Department of Justice to address systemic misconduct in police departments and prosecutors' offices. This deals with consent decrees that the Trump administration stopped and that the Obama administration championed. There were about 25 investigations to the patterns and practices of police departments under the Obama-Biden administration, more investigations than any other administration, which led to about 14 to 15 consent decrees. Jeff Sessions and William Barr are against holding police accountable. One of the first things Jeff Sessions did when he was confirmed as Donald Trump's first attorney general, he tried to back out of the consent decrees that the Obama Justice Department entered into with the Chicago Police Department and the Baltimore Police Department. They entered into these consent decrees with the oversight of a federal judge. Jeff Sessions, who is against holding police accountable, and said we need to back off and take a hands-off approach, so to speak. He tried to back out of those consent decrees, and a federal judge would not allow him to do that. All right, so read the rest of that. And then establish an independent task force on prosecutorial discretion. The Biden administration will create a new task force placed outside of the U.S. Department of Justice to make recommendations for tackling discrimination and other problems in our justice system that results from arrest and charging decisions. Next, reinvigorate community-oriented policing. Okay, check that out. Then invest in public defenders' offices to ensure defendants access to quality counsel. Next, create a $20 billion grant program to support criminal justice reform at the state and local level. Funds can be used by cities and states on measures proven to reduce crime and incarceration, and require states to eliminate mandatory minimums for nonviolent crimes in order to receive funding. Next, reform sentencing. Biden will work with Congress to reform federal sentencing and provide incentives to state and local systems to do the same. He will end once and for all the federal crack and powder cocaine disparity, decriminalize. Now, so that was reduced from 101 to 18 to 1 in 2010. That bill passed Congress. President Obama signed it into law. Okay. And that was part of the 1986. There was a crime bill in 1986 that put the disparity at 101. Okay. And a lot of people were against that. A lot of civil rights leaders were against that and said it's going to disproportionately harm African Americans and the African American community, even though there was also, let's keep it 100. There's a whole lot of white people and white women using crack cocaine also back then. It wasn't just African Americans. But it would disproportionately harm us. Okay. Let's keep in mind. Okay. Decriminalize. He will once and for all end the federal crack and powder cocaine disparity, even though it's been brought down to 18 to 1, but in the disparity should be 1 to 1. Decriminalize the use of cannabis, marijuana, and automatically expunge all prior cannabis use convictions. Automatically expunge all prior cannabis use convictions. Okay. And end all incarceration for drug use alone, and instead divert individuals to drug courts and treatment. He will work to eliminate mandatory minimums and the death penalty. Next bullet point, end criminalization of poverty. End criminalization of poverty. Cash bail is the modern day debtor's prison. Biden will lead a national effort to end cash bail and reform our pretrial system by putting in place instead a system that is fair and does not inject further discrimination or bias into the process. And he will work to end the practice of jailing people for being too poor to pay fines and fees. Next bullet point, stop corporations from profiteering off of incarceration. This deals with privatized prisons. Okay. Biden will end the federal government's use of private prisons, building off an Obama-Biden administration's policy rescinded by the Trump administration, or reversed by the Trump administration. And he will make clear that federal government should not use private facilities for any detention, including detention of undocumented immigrants. And some of the privatized prison companies have contracts to house the migrants coming through the southern border. Eliminate existing barriers preventing formerly incarcerated individuals from fully participating in society. Reform the juvenile justice system. Make our communities safer. Next bullet point. Then you have protecting the right to vote. Make the right to vote and the right to equal protection real for African Americans. So this deals with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Ensure that political appointees, including the president's cabinet, look like the country they serve, and ensure that our federal workforce is representative of the demographics in our country. Appoint U.S. Supreme Court justices and federal judges who look like America, are committed to the rule of law, understand the importance of individual civil rights and civil liberties. And we respect foundational precedents like Brown versus Board of Education and Roe versus Wade. Okay. And they'll respect those precedents. Trump has gotten heard before the Senate went on recess. 218 federal judges confirmed, 218 federal judges confirmed, and 3 Supreme Court justices. These are lifetime appointments. Federal judges are lifetime appointments. And only 2 of them that I know of are African-American. One is a African-American female judge from Flint, Michigan. Okay, only 2 that I know of are African-American. There were about 6 or 7 African-Americans he nominated. 2 were confirmed. Okay, 1 male, 1 female. And many of these nominations have been very unqualified people, most of them white males, ultra-conservative white males, very young. And these are lifetime appointments. Republicans are trying to control the federal bench for the next 35, 40 years, 25, 35, 40 years. Okay. This is what this is about. Okay. So so they're talking about protecting the right to vote, strengthening the 1965 Voting Rights Act, etc. Combat the epidemic of violence against transgender women of color, tackle systemic racism, and support a study of the continuing impacts of slavery. Donald Trump doesn't want to deal with H.R. 40, doesn't want to talk about reparations, doesn't want to deal with slavery, didn't talk about it in his 2-page agenda, his fool's gold plan, they call it a platinum plan. Tackle systemic racism and support a study of the continuing impacts of slavery. We must acknowledge that there can be no realization of the American dream without grappling with the original sin of slavery and the centuries-long campaign of violence, fear, and trauma wrought upon African-American people in this country. As Biden has said in this campaign, Biden administration will support a study of reparations. Biden will begin on day 1 of his administration to address the systemic racism that persists across our institutions today, etc. This has to pass. So you can do that. He supports H.R. 40. That's House Resolution 40. But actual reparations has to pass both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. But you need a president to sign it into law. Trump is not that president. Biden supports this. You need a president to sign it into law, the bill into law. That's not Trump. A reparations bill will not come up for a debate in the Senate or a vote in the Senate as long as Moscow Mitch McConnell is Senate Majority Leader. Why? Because he already said reparations is dead on arrival in the Senate. The Senate Majority Leader controls the Senate. No bill can come to the Senate floor for debate or a vote without approval of the Senate Majority Leader. This is why those 2 special Senate races, January 5th, 2020, are so important. Okay. John Ossoff running against Republican Senator David Perdue. John Ossoff has to win that race. And then Raphael Warnock challenging Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler in Georgia. Democrats win both of those. Then Democrats control the Senate. Moscow Mitch McConnell is not in control of the Senate. He won't be Senate Majority Leader. Now, they may make him Senate Minority Leader, but he doesn't control the Senate. If there's a 50-50 tie in the Senate, the tie-breaking vote goes to the MVP, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This is an example of how elections have consequences. Okay, address environmental justice. They go through and deal with environmental justice as well. Okay. Reinstate federal protections rolled back by the Trump administration that were designed to protect communities. Because there were about 100 regulations that the environmental regulations that the Trump administration has rolled back that were either put in place by the Obama administration or kept in place by the Obama administration. New York Times has a big article dealing with this, and they go through and break down the 100 regulations dealing with the environment that Trump has reversed. So this ties into environmental racism. This ties to the decline in the quality of air over the past 3 years. So this has wide-ranging impacts, a wide-ranging impact. All right. Ensure access to safe drinking water for all communities, including Flint, Michigan. Monitor for lead and other contaminants and hold polluters accountable. Prioritize communities harmed by climate change and pollution. Donald Trump doesn't even really fully want to acknowledge climate change exists. Prioritize communities harmed by climate change and pollution. Okay, so check out this, and also you can read this fact sheet dealing with how their policies will empower men as well. Okay, then they break down expanding access to affordable health care, creating jobs for Black men, providing startup capital for small businesses, reforming criminal justice, making college affordable, increasing Black home ownership. And they go part of the 22-page agenda, part of the overall agenda. Okay, but they break that down for those who need to explain this to people, or maybe you want to explain this to African-American men that supported Donald Trump for some reason. You may want to do that also. All right. How's everybody doing? Including the trolls that are having different area codes. Y'all can donate money too, trolls. You can buy DVDs as well. You can support also. So you can donate to the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App, $, the AHN show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show as well. So these are all things that we hold them accountable to. We can't stay at the inauguration for 4 years or 2 years or 1 year or 1 month. The fight really starts after the inauguration, even before then, but especially after the inauguration. The fight starts to hold them accountable for all these promises. And I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I'm also not stupid. I see whose policies, I actually read, unlike a lot of people. I see whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans, and I see whose policies are, I see who's blocking those policies, and I see who's doing us harm. Okay, so this is why we have to continue to work. This is why we have to continue to do the work. All right, now let's look at the Jobs and Justice Plan. Briefly look at that. And follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP also. I'm going to show you two last things here. We talked about this before, but I want to deal with this again, since it's now President-elect Joe Biden and Madam Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. There was an article from news1.com, September 2020, dealt with the Jobs and Justice Act 2020 from the Congressional Black Caucus, that the Congressional Black Caucus is pushing to become law. See if I can pull up that article right here. I'm going to show this to you. A lot of people haven't seen this, okay? So I'd have to ask you where you're getting your information from if you don't know a lot of this information. Not beating up on you. I'm just talking about I'm just asking where you get your information from. All right, now let's see here. Let's look at this quickly. All right, so Jobs and Justice Act. Let's close this here. Let's see. This is from news1.com. News1.com. All right. Check this out. CBC introduces Jobs and Justice Act. CBC introduces Jobs and Justice Act of 2020 to help Black families economically and socially. The multifaceted bill is divided into two parts. Two main parts is actually divided into 5 parts, but 2 main parts. This is from September 15th, 2020. We've talked about this here on the show before, but it's important to talk about this again. These are bills that have to be pushed through the House of Representatives, pushed through the Senate. Okay, so it's in 2 parts, divided in 2 parts. The multifaceted Jobs and Justice Act makes provisions that, if passed, would, quote, increase the upward social mobility of Black families and help ensure equal protection under the law. The CBC's ambitious new sweeping legislation says the first part of the bill devoted to jobs is broken up into 5 subcategories and addresses the nation's most pressing needs. On the employment front during a time when there is unprecedented joblessness, especially among African Americans. The jobs portion of the bill addresses various aspects of employment, such as workforce development, community and economic development, poverty, housing, and wealth creation, as well as education. Okay, so it's a comprehensive bill. This needs to pass the House and the Senate. You can check it. We'll post a link here. You can read this. Let's see here. Okay. The first, let's see. Okay, the first part of the bill. Then the second part of the bill is also multi-tiered and concentrates on the ongoing efforts to reform the nation's criminal justice system. So they deal with that as well. So check this out. The George Floyd Police Injustice Act is incorporated into this as well. This deals with police reform also. Holding police accountable, the Justice Division addresses criminal justice and includes the CBC's own Justice and Policing Act of 2020 that ambitiously aims to end police brutality, hold police accountable, and improve transparency in policing and create meaningful structural change when it comes to how law enforcement does their jobs. It deals with health equity, the coronavirus pandemic, environmental justice, and voting rights. So it's a comprehensive bill. Okay, we've talked about it here on the show before. A lot of people don't know that it exists. All right, let's continue. So we have that. Check that out. And then there was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Roland talked about there was a graphic that the CBC sent out that compared the Jobs and Justice Act to Donald Trump's Platinum Plan. Okay, Donald Trump's Platinum Plan. And let me see. We just look at that briefly here, so you can see some of the things in the Jobs and Justice Act. But these are all things that we have to push through Congress, push through the House, push through the U.S. Senate. So we have to contact our members of the Senate, contact our members of the House of Representatives, let them know that we want these bills pushed through Congress, to vote yes on these bills. We have to organize our various organizations. We have to organize to push this through, and other bills that are not even covered in this, other issues in this agenda. Various organizations have their own platforms, have their own agendas. Okay, let's see if I can pull this up here. I have it. Okay, yeah, here it is. Let's try to pull this up. Look at this quickly. This will be the last thing. African-American business owners, email us at customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network show also, and advertise with us. Let me see, is this coming up? Should come up here in a second here. It's on application, jobs and justice. It should come up. How's everybody doing? So has anybody explained this information to you like this before? Just curious. Where is that? Let's open that up. I want you to see this graphic. This compares the Jobs and Justice Act. This compares it to the Donald Trump's Fool's Gold plan that he called the Platinum Plan. Okay, this should come up here. It's running a little slowly. All right, so we'll let that populate. Be sure to listen to our show Sunday night. We're here 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday, the African History Network show. So we'll be on Sunday night also. And we broadcast right here on, we broadcast on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF and our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network also. All right. Let me see if this graphic came up. Okay, here we go. Information there. The graphics not coming up. All right. All right. Look, hey, we're going to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. Keep in mind, these are things that we have to hold them accountable to, and other elected officials that we voted for, hold them accountable to on the other side of the election. So we have to organize, mobilize, push these policies through, push these agendas through, et cetera. Okay, remember that at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you Sunday night. Okay. And this is breaking up a little bit here. All right. All right. We'll talk to you all Sunday night, and follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you Sunday night. Peace.